I think I was the only bass player in my whole town, so it was just really epic.
I was on Facebook a few months ago just poking around, and I found the most incredible performance of the Moses Fantasy by today's guest. I knew her name, I reached out to her, and we had a wonderful conversation. I'm Jason Heath, this is Contrabass Conversations, and Sasha Witteveen, today's guest, is building a remarkable career for herself in the Amsterdam area. She's studying there. She's launched a remarkable career at 16. It's really cool. And we have a lot of shared background, which always seems to be the case, no matter what age person I talk to her, where they are in the world. She was in Lucca, Italy a couple years ago. I was there as well. So we talk about that. We talk about what it's like balancing school and building a career, where she sees herself a few years down the road, what she's done so far in her career. It's really remarkable. And I've linked up to that video that inspired this conversation and a little bit more about her. And I really hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. It was really, really cool for me to learn about Sasha and everything she's up to. A quick shout out to our sponsors, D'Addario Strings, Upton Bass, Steve Swan String Bass, the Bass Violin Shop, Modacity, Holstein Music, and A440 Violin Shop. More on them later, but let's dig into this conversation with Sasha Witteveen.
Nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. You were in Lucca back in 2018, yes. Weren't you? Were you competing then, or what were you doing in Lucca? Okay.
I was I was competing for the double bass youth competition, and I was in the second category. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And did you stay around for the whole week and check out some of the concerts and that kind of thing?
Yes. I went to some concerts, and actually also an important reason why I came to the festivals was because I wanted to meet Scaramelli, the bass builder.
Yeah.
Because many teachers that I know, they were like, you have to see him. So that's when I wanted to meet him. And now I have a bass from him. So yeah, that's the result.
Now, and then those are those beautiful basses that are kind of guitar shaped, right? Like without the, okay. I've never played one of his basses, but I've heard great things, and so that's what you're playing on now.
Yes. Yeah. True. Yeah.
Wow. What a fun instrument.
Yeah.
Now, was that the hottest temperature competition you've ever had?
My God. Yes. Yeah. It was. I was playing in this kind of little church or chapel, and it was so hot. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've never. I had a great time there, but every time I think about that, I think about just the heat, and I remember thinking I was in the audience and I could barely stand to be there, and then thinking about playing bass on stage with lights on you. I mean, that if you could compete in that, you could compete in anything.
Yeah. No, but it was a lot of fun to be there.
That's great. That's wow. You are up to so many things. It's so fun I've seen your name pop up before, and then I was just listening to this beautiful performance of the Moses Fantasy that you did was that with the Ludwig? What was that group that you were playing with?
Well, thank you very much. This video was made during the live concert of a Dutch festival, a radio festival. It's called Hart en Ziel, which means heart and soul, actually. Okay. And this is where this is once a year where people vote for what they think is the most loved classical music. I don't know how you can say that, but Ludwig this year was invited. Ludwig is an organization with musicians. You could say it's kind of an orchestra, but it's just a bunch of musicians together, and they can play whatever they want. And they were playing at this festival, and they asked me if I wanted to play, first of all, the second movement of Paganini Concerto. during the last concert of the festival, and also I could. They wanted me to set up my own program for the concert in the afternoon. So that's when I played most variations, and that was recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I would love to know. It seems like you've done so much. So you're 16 right now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I love your playing. I wish I was playing even 1/10 as beautifully as you are at your age. It's just really cool to see everything you've done these last few years. What drew you to the bass? How did you get attracted to the bass as an instrument?
Yes, because it's of course not an instrument that you see every day. But when I was younger, I think the first time I saw the bass was in the movie Some Like It Hot. Do you know this movie?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Okay. It's a really great movie. I really love it. It's like the favorite movie of my mother. And maybe the scene where Jack Lemmon plays the bass in the train, and he turns around his bass, and it was jazz actually, but I think he played it so funny, and it was just, he played it like a toy. But that was of course not the only thing that spoke to me about that impressed me about the bass. But I think this was the first moment where I saw this instrument, and I just really thought it was so cool actually, because it's so big, and never anybody would expect me to do this kind of thing, like little blonde girl with a big bass. It's not really a typical thing. But and also the low tones really fascinated me in jazz, and I actually also in orchestra, but I didn't really notice it before that much, but I think the movie was the first time I really thought like, wow.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Now, had you been playing musical instruments from a very young age, or what did you bass? I'm assuming it wasn't your first instrument, was it?
It was not my first instrument, no. My mother is a piano teacher, and she gives lessons to a lot of young people. And I have a sister called Sonia, and she also plays piano really well, and she's like my big sister. So of course, at age of 5, I also wanted to start because she was doing it, and so that's where I started to play classical music. And my mother taught me to play piano, and I really, really loved it. I still love it so much. But then the bass came, and it was like so different. But at the age of 10, I started bass.
Age of 10. Do you still play any piano or practice piano? Okay, you do. Okay.
Yeah, because I do now the bachelor at conservatory in Amsterdam, but not officially because I'm still in high school. So, but I follow the subjects, and I also have to play sometimes a bit of piano. So I have to keep in shape for a bit, but not really professional or anything.
Well, I know you. So you live in Amsterdam, and you're originally from Amsterdam?
Well, I'm originally, actually I live in a really small town really next to Amsterdam.
Okay.
But I'm also from there, yes.
Okay. Well, and so you're at the conservatory as well. I'm always interested in how different countries have their schooling set up. Like, it's very different here in the United States or California where I live versus, I was just in Australia. They're a little bit different. So like, how does it work for someone like you that's really passionate about music and working on music? Are you still enrolled in like what we'd think of as a typical high school here? Or are you at an art school? Or just tell me about what you're doing and maybe options that people have.
Yeah, well, this is actually really an interesting question that you're asking me now, because now I'm now in my test week of high school. So it's really like until here I'm really busy. But it's an interesting question, because we have some art schools that you talked about in the Netherlands. But actually I am now in my 5th year, and one more year to go next year of my high school in Amsterdam. And it's just a regular high school, but it's the level that's if I do these 6 years, I can do any study that I want. So, I mean, if I, for example, also want to do next to conservatory, for example, music history or Greek or Latin, these are subjects that I really like also, then I can still do that. I have another option. So that's why I do that in the first place. And those art schools, they don't have this level of schooling, of education. But conservatory is actually, I'm now in my second year of bachelor, unofficially, but yeah. Because I don't have my school diploma yet, but I kind of follow the subjects of bachelor that I need to follow to get a bachelor diploma in 2 more years after this year. And yes, I get my study points. How do you call these? my grades, I
Credits,
guess.
yeah.
And then. In a couple more years, I will probably have my bachelor, or maybe not. I will see. I need to see how busy I am with school. So school is in the first place, but it's really hard to combine because I have these tests and I just want to go. How to say that? Just to be free and to have more time to, make music and do a lot of things. But unfortunately, I don't always have that.
Do you need to play a bass beforehand that you purchase? Here's Gary Upton of Upton Bass on that topic.
I hear these kind of truisms stated by retailers like, you have to play the bass that you're going to buy. I think that's the worst thing you can say. Because
great if you live in New York City.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
or have 10 grand you can spend on traveling, right? But sometimes you have to trust people, right? And sometimes you have to trust someone's reputation, sending out those videos, and I can hear it and I can feel it, and I trust this company's not going anywhere, and da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what I tried, right, Eric? I really drilled home. I said, for a long time, like, give them more pictures.
Yeah.
Give them the videos.
Give them everything they need to make a decision.
The reputation of Upton Bass is stellar. People know, like, and trust them through all the great content they've put out online and through time and time again delivering on their promise of quality and consistency no matter what level of bass you're purchasing. Learn more at uptonbass.com, and thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast. Kolstein Music has been supplying the bass world and the music world in general at this point with great services and products for over 60 years. It was started by Samuel Kolstein and has been run by Barry Kolstein, who I've had on the podcast. And they are just such a great company for anything you need for basses. They've got a great selection of instruments. They've got a great selection of bows, accessories, and just a great bunch of people working behind the scenes. Barry has been a true friend to the bass community for so long, and it's so great to have Kolstein supporting the podcast. Learn more about everything that they do at kolstein.com. This episode is brought to you by the Bass Violin Shop, which opened in 2001 as a small double bass workshop in Greensboro, North Carolina. Today, they're staffed by 3 full-time, highly skilled bass luthiers, and they specialize in double bass sales, rentals, setup, restoration, and repair. For nearly 20 years, they have satisfied thousands of clients by offering quality instruments, knowledgeable service, reliable repairs, and superior restorations at affordable prices. Whether resetting your soundpost, installing a new bridge, or giving your fingerboard one of their precision dressings, the Bass Violin Shop will work with you to improve your setup. They also specialize in resetting necks, repairing cracks, installing new fingerboards, and new bass bars. Whatever your playing needs, they will listen carefully to you and work hard to get the most out of your instrument without blowing your budget. For more information and current inventory, visit their website at bassviolinshop.com and be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Well, thank you for chatting with me during your test week. I know how busy that can be. I guess I should have realized that is the time of year right here when that's happening. And what a challenge it must be to balance that and wanting to be a good student and do that with like the conservatory, the demands on your time there and just the performing that you're doing. That's got to be a real challenge trying to, how do you allocate, how do you fit practice time into like I always found it so challenging for like people your age that I've worked with, to like, how do you find the time? Do you just wait till after school, or do you have your high school classes during the day and the conservatory is later in the day or on the weekend, or like how does your life look in terms of school and then when you get time on the bass?
Well, a normal day would look for me like I get up at 7 in the morning and then I go. My school starts at 8:30, usually until like 4 or 3. And sometimes it is I have conservatory lessons after school, and like until 5 or something, 5 p.m. And sometimes I have conservatory lessons during school. So then I have to miss a couple lessons of my high school and then go back to high school. So it depends a bit, but usually I am at home at around 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 or maybe even 7. It just really depends. And then I just practice. And yeah, if I don't have any tests, I just go on until 9 or 10. And then I start learning, studying for high school. Yeah. But I don't always find the time to study. Like this week is really crazy because I have all these exams. So that's really a shame, but yeah.
Boy, yeah, that is a tough thing to balance, and getting the practicing in, and you can't wait until too late before practicing. Otherwise, you're probably, it's the last thing you'd want to do. So, it's beautiful once you get more time and you can practice. If you could choose when to practice, if you didn't have high school and conservatory, do you find, or like maybe during summer when you have a little bit of less time, what's your best time of day for practicing? Is it in the evening like that? Is it in the morning or kind of throughout the day? If you could just create your fantasy schedule.
Wow, that would be like really great if I could choose when to practice. But I think I would just practice like I would just practice for maybe 2 hours or 1.5 and then take a break of half an hour and then again, or just do something else or something and then go on with practicing for another 2 hours. And then, actually I would just practice the whole day, but with breaks of like an hour or maybe 1.5 hour or half an hour and just do something else. Yeah. No, that's a great way. And I'm sure you will get a chance in your life where you have the time like that, especially as you keep going forward. Who are you studying with at the conservatory? I am now studying with Professor Olivier Cherry. Okay. For the last couple of years now? I've been studying with him. This is my second year. After summer vacation, started my second year with him. And before that, I studied a couple of years with Peter Leerdam. Peter Leerdam is, he now teaches in Rotterdam, but before he taught at conservatory in Amsterdam. And before that, I had a teacher for about a year, maybe even less, Mikael Stads, and he was a jazz bassist. And so, yeah, and I love that some Like It Hot is like what drew you to the bass. Do you play some jazz as well, or Well, I wish I could, but it's actually if I had the time, I would really, really learn it. And sometimes also at the conservatory, they have these master classes for jazz, and I really, really want it, but I just don't have the time. That's just the thing. Yeah. It's a shame, but I don't play much jazz, no. Okay, just curious. Yeah, but there's maybe in the future. Yeah. So what's Olivier like as a teacher? What do you work on in lessons? What I'd love to know just like what's the inside the bass world look like for you in terms of that? Yeah. Well, first of all, I think Olivier is really the best teacher I can have right now. He's really amazing teacher. I really like how he spends the time with me and helps me with everything. He's first of all technically for the bass he's really really good. We do actually we try now not to plan many concerts for me, because then I would have more time to play just like etudes and just sonatas and for myself, and not really focus like, oh, I have to get this done in a week for a concert or anything. But in the lesson, usually if we do technical aspects of the bass, it's really, we can do like 20 minutes or 30 minutes of looking how my hand is, or how do you say this, the position of my body and my hand.
Sure. Like
it's
posture.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also a lot of musical aspects of some pieces that I study, and
It's such a different type of learning. Like when you have a competition coming up and you're just trying to get everything ready for that and kind of, get everything at that highest level, versus not having that deadline and being able to just spend some time on those kind of longer term things of your playing. I mean, you don't want to not ever do any competitions or anything like that, but it is kind of nice to have the time to stretch out and, not have something you're trying to get ready for in 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. I think so too. Yes.
Yeah. What is your, so when, after you get home from school and all that, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whenever, what does your practice time look like? What do you typically do? Do you kind of do a lot of people here, they do technique. We work on a lot of orchestra excerpts, even from a young age here in the United States, which I know isn't necessarily that common elsewhere, and then solo rep, like what's a typical, if there is one, typical practice session for you?
Well, I also do a lot of orchestral excerpts, because it's really, I think sometimes even these orchestral excerpts can be way more complicated than any solo piece. I think it's really, really important to learn these orchestra excerpts, and it's also my future, so I cannot help it, but I love it also very much, of course, symphony and orchestra music. My typical practice session would look like, I think I would also always start with a bit of technique, and then just really, just do everything like very, very slow and really relaxed. Like if I had this day where I get home very late and I'm very tired, I just do everything very slow, and it doesn't have to have much emotion, but just really controlled and relax. And this is when I study a solo piece or something. And where I am also in an orchestra and string ensemble, so it's called LGT Young Soloists. So when I prepare for that, I usually play with YouTube. I put on YouTube, and I just try to get it correct as much as possible. And yet, of course, just do everything that the teacher says in the lesson. So posture and articulation, and many exercises also for the right hand mostly, because it's very important, right hand. I think that would be it. It's a bit hard to describe actually, but yeah. Yeah,
no, it sounds like a good routine for sure. And I was looking up that LGT Young Soloists, right? Can you tell me about? So it's people from a whole bunch of different countries, right? Yeah. Tell me about that group and what that looks like.
Well, it's really a really nice group of really high level, young, talented musicians, and we have the leader Alexander Gilman. He's a professional violinist who I really also look up to. Every time we go on a project, then we have a couple concerts, usually 2 or 1 or maybe even 3. And then before those concerts, like we have 1 or 2 days to, or sometimes even on the day itself of the concert, we start rehearsing very intensely. Everybody comes together then, as you said, from different countries. And then we start rehearsing and we have concerts.
Hello, my name is Klaus Freudenstein. I'm a double bass player and educator based in Germany. I'm working in quite a lot of fields. So one is I'm the founder of the double bass quartet, the Bass Monsters. We are playing rock tunes on 4 double basses in a very chamber music way. And we're about to release a new CD with many real bass monsters playing on it, and I'm already very much looking forward to launch it. Have a look on the Bass Monsters website. Also, beside this, I'm the inventor of the mini bass. 15 years ago, I invented the so-called Freudenstein mini bass that you can also check out on minibass.com. Beside this, I'm also the writer of music. I have published some books. One is a method for the mini bass. It's called Mini Bass, available in Hofmeister Publishing, also in English language. And if you know someone that likes it in Chinese language, there is also an issue published. Also, I have published a piece called The Bass Hymn that should include many different player levels. So in one piece you can play with professors on the double bass standing beside mini bass players that just started to play. Also, I have published a book called It's Christmas, with Christmas carols for double bass quartet, and soon there will be out a new piece called The Wolf, and also in this book is the piece Struct. Well, I'm also the organizer and artistic director of the Bavarian Bass Days that you can also check out in the internet, an international bass meeting with many styles. I was on the board of directors of the ISB for some years. Now I'm in the advisory board of the ISB, and for the ISB I also wrote articles in the bass world. I do international master classes and mini bass workshops, so you see it's a lot of stuff. Also my project Crossing Borders, which is a project that includes solo music for double bass and piano, that is all more or less arranged or written for me. And of course, beside this, I'm a teacher. I'm teaching quite a lot of students in all ages. And for all of that, I'm using Kaplan strings from D'Addario. I really love them, and also my colleagues in the Bass Monsters are very happy with them. We are using the Kaplan solo in the Bass Monsters, and for all the rest of the things that I'm doing, I use the Kaplan Heavy that really give me a powerful, deep and clear projecting sound. So far, that's it from my side. Thank you for listening. Klaus Freudenstein.
Keeping track of what you practice is so critical. And my practice companion, Modacity, it does it for me. It's so awesome. Here's Modacity founder and CEO Mark Gelfo on how this works.
Accounting before the spreadsheet was manually handwritten ledgers, and that's where most musicians have been for the last 200 years. And it's time to automate that and save some time and let people focus on what's really important, which is performing on their instrument.
And that is exactly what Modacity has done for me. I feel so much more focused and energized and enthusiastic about practicing. I love this app so much. You can learn more at modacity.co and visit our website for a special offer for lifetime access for this app. Such a cool piece of technology. And thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast, Modacity. This episode is brought to you by Steve Swan String Bass. Steve has been active in the bass world and also the guitar world for years. Here's a bit from our live podcast taping with Steve on how he got into that business.
Guitars and basses.
Guitars and basses.
Okay, how did that happen?
They're both helper instruments. I've always played the rhythm guitar, quite often with bass lines moving, either in swing style, jazz style, or country style. Bass is the same thing, supporting the band, the group of people you're playing with. So I've always felt like I was a support person.
I love how Steve describes being a support person, and he is certainly that for the bass community here on the West Coast, here in the San Francisco Bay Area. His shop is located just south of San Francisco, and he has a large retail showroom with about 70 basses on display. And these basses are professional top of the line basses. These basses are student level basses and everything in between. They're beautifully set up. So if you're looking for a bass or you know someone who is, be sure to check out Steve at steveswanstringbass.com. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast, Steve. Yeah. And how many concerts a year would you say?
That's a lot, I think. I mean, I'm not so sure because I don't do every project that they have because of my school. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. They just finished their tour to like Europe and Asia. It was really crazy, but I couldn't do it because of my school. But it's pretty intense, I would say.
When did you start working with them? Is that within the last couple of years, or when did that happen?
I started working with them in December 2018.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's.
But it's really, really nice opportunity, I think, to. First of all, I'm the only bassist there because it's a small string. I would say big string ensemble, but not an orchestra. So I really learn the ensemble music, but it's also a really nice opportunity to perform solo. So that's what we actually do.
What a cool ensemble. What a great thing to be involved with. That must be a really, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, it's great to play in a bass section too, of course, 7, 8, 9 bass players, whatever, but to be the one bassist and to sort of have that intimacy of the string only group. Yeah. I learn so much and get so much out of that type of group. That's really cool that's on your plate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. I really like it a lot. Yes. Yeah.
So what do you see? You mentioned that you see orchestras in your future. Orchestras are important. That's in your future. What do you see yourself doing? Sorry, that's a big question, but it's kind of a fun question. It's actually kind of a fun question and I'm sure you've thought about it, but I just love to know, like, if you project down the road 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. First of all, is music I mean, I would assume that music is where you're headed based on what I'm...
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, it's all the time. It's like when I actually this afternoon I was studying in the library for my test week, and next to the library there's a window, and I can see the bass room of the conservatory, and I see all my friends, and I was like, oh, I want to be there. I want to play with them, and I want to study. But it's not, really, it's my whole life is with this kind of world. I absolutely love it. But sorry, what was your question again?
No. Well, that's good. That's what I assumed. But like, do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing professionally? Do you see yourself in an orchestra? Do you see yourself soloing, playing some sort of chamber music? And there's so many things that people do in this music world. What are some of your and you don't have to narrow it down yet. But what are some things you sort of see yourself doing in the future? Well, I really want to do everything. Like I just said to you, I really would love to learn jazz, but it's not always possible, I think. But what I want to do as a profession for sure is be a soloist and also play in orchestra. I really absolutely love the energy that the orchestra gives to me when I play in orchestra, and also play ensemble music because that's what you said. Really amazing how I can learn from that as the only bass player. I think actually every type of music of the bass I could imagine I really love to do, and I would really love to learn if I didn't yet. So what I would do later as a profession, I think it's very necessary already to have a job as an orchestra player, because that's kind of where I mean, I don't have much knowledge of that yet, but I would say that's where I would get money from or something. I don't know. Yeah. That's what people say to me. But yeah. There's a lot. I would really. I am also really dreaming of becoming a solo player and just actually. How do I say this? Get over the border of
just a double bass player, and that not only bass players see me, but also finalists and all the other musicians. I would love to work with them also.
Yeah, get out of just the bass world and actually get it. Yeah, and more people are. Yeah, well, more and more people are doing that every year. As you look ahead, there are. And it's just exciting to see people that combine. I don't know if you know one name. There are so many people, but like Simon Marciniak as this wonderful bassist who was principal bass in The Hague for a while, and then he broke off and was just doing solos and chamber, and now I think he's back playing in the radio orchestra for a year or something like that. So people even move in and out of phases of that. Obviously you're playing Moses Fantasy. I'm seeing that. What are some of the other pieces that you're enjoying these days, or that you have played for competitions? Or like, if I was going to say, Sasha, play a recital in a month, like what might you pick? What are some of those pieces you're working on these days?
Well, I just finished my first sonata ever, and I absolutely love it. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I played the first sonata of Mishek, not the second one, but the first one that is less popular. But it's really, really amazing how sonata form is. It's just a different kind of, it's of course a different kind of form, but also really different kind of feeling than a concerto or just a solo piece. I absolutely love it. So I would say I'm also now busy with arpeggio and sonata. So I would say, for sure, a sonata, and probably Moses Variations, because it's really an intimate piece and it's also funny and it's really nice to play. And it's also challenged to work together with the pianist or anyone who accompanies me with the Moses Variations. Maybe some solo pieces. I don't know, like tempo, cadenza, or that's what I'm playing now. And that's cool.
That's great that you're doing tempos. That cadenza. That's a great piece too. That's not an easy piece, but that's very cool. Wow. Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for chatting. I taking time out of your exam week, and it's really cool to see what you're up to. And congratulations on the relatively new bass. And I can't wait to hear some more recordings of Mishek from you and Arpeggione from you. And I usually wrap up and let's have this be the first of many conversations, because I love having people back, and I've had people back I think I'm talking to a bassist named Grace Lewis tomorrow. I think this will be her third or fourth time on the podcast already. So nice. Whenever you got something coming up, just let me know. And I usually wrap up with some advice for your younger self. And even though your younger self, maybe we can go back to, I usually say, give your 18-year-old your 18-year-old self some advice. And that doesn't make sense for you because that's projecting into the future. But maybe if you could go back and talk to 10-year-old Sasha when you were just first picking up the bass, what would you maybe tell her about that you what do you wish you'd known at 10 that you know now?
Well, I really am thinking of something now, because that's when I actually started to learn the bass, and I was actually quite a shy girl. I was not really very extrovert. And then when I started playing the bass, it was really something very, very different from, I think I was the only bass player in my whole town. So it was just really abnormal. And I think this, I was kind of hesitating about this kind of thing. Should I do it or not? Because I was a bit, maybe, how do you say this? Unsure. How do you say this? Not about myself, not very secure or something. And now, like, if I hadn't done this, where would I be now? I would just only be studying my tests, how boring is that? So I think I would just say, very cliche, but just do it. Yeah. Believe in yourself. I don't know. That's what comes up in my mind right now. But yeah.
Sasha, thank you so much for chatting with me, and I am sure this is the first of many conversations. I love connecting with people at different points in their career, and I've had guests on 10 years after the fact. Hope it won't be that long before we talk to Sasha again, but I'm just really inspired by people like Sasha in their teens that are building a career like she is and just playing as beautifully as she is. So very cool. Really hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you'd like to reach out, feedback@contrabassconversations.com will put you in touch with me. And I love hearing from people all over the globe at different points in their life with different interests. It's just so inspiring for me to learn about who is listening to this podcast, and I'm just constantly surprised by where people find this, where they're listening to it, who they want to hear on the podcast. So please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Contrabass Conversations is produced by Michael Cooper, Steve Hinchy, Trevor Jones, and Mitch Mooring. And Mitch is making beautiful, award-winning basses and just finished a new one in the Dallas, Texas area. Learn more at mitchmooring.com. And thank you to Krista Copper for cataloging and archiving everything we do on this podcast. I'm your host, Jason Heath, and we will see you again soon for more life on the low end of the spectrum.